Hi, Sai here from Music Radar. Today we are doing something slightly out of the regular one product. We are going for a full
do one of our rankings.
Yeah, this is the Moog semi-modular desktop.
Yeah, I don't know what we're calling this. Moog semi-modulars, but we're not, obviously, before you say it in the comments, we're talking about Moog semi-modulars. Moog makes several other semi-modular things. Yeah. They've got like grandmother, matriarch, I think the little workstat type things.
Yeah, Mavis, they're all patchable.
So there's a few things that are semi-modular in their lineup, but we are talking specifically these 5 bits of gear here.
Yes.
So they're all effectively part of one range. They're Eurorack-compatible, mountable, all semi-modular, all kind of standalone as well.
Yeah.
Lots of these, they first emerged as part of those back in the day when Moog used to do their Moog Fest thing.
Yeah, it was the build, wasn't
They had their little workshops, which is where we kind of got the first sight of some of these. But like, they look the same. They're kind of similar in the same modular thing, but they're also massively different in that they all do quite different things and some quite interesting things.
Yeah. So the thing that we're trying to do today is rank them best to worst, worst to best,
worst to best.
Worst to best. That's the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also, we're having a look at like some unique pairings, things that we think go well together, and we've done a little bit each, and we've chosen 2 each.
Yeah. So I mean, we were to put these in order of which is our favourite for no particular reason at all, just because it's fun.
Yeah.
But also, as we were saying, these absolutely work best when you connect them up to other things, like whether that's a wider modular setup or a different semi-modular synth, or particularly connect them to each other. So
they do work well together.
Yeah, so Moog sell their own combinations. I think they call it their sound studio, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Like where you can buy, I think the Mother-32 and DFAM and Subharmonicon.
Yeah, and then you can get like the little racks.
Yeah, and they come, kind of come with nice guides on how to use them all together. Yeah. But like you can connect the patch bays up. They all do interesting things together. So we thought, as well as putting these into an order, we're kind of challenging each other to say what we think the best combination of 2 of them is, and convince each other with a patch that we're going to make up.
Yes, and then you can decide in the comments which one you think is the winner. We'll obviously fight it out here as well.
Or just slag us both off.
Yeah,
it's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah,
absolutely fair. So what are we going to start with inside? Should we start with the rank?
Let's rank these, okay?
Okay.
So in at number 5, and I realise as we do this that we've started filming this without working out what we actually think. So we were discussing this.
This could get fighty.
And we realised that we kind of disagree, and we never really resolved that, did we?
No, we didn't. But
number 5 is probably, I think we've both got different suggestions. So let's convince each other. Mine.
Okay.
So for mine, my least favourite in this range is Spectravox. So Spectravox Spectravox is it's a vocoder, what's it called? Semi-modular analog spectral processor on the front.
Yes.
But it's kind of a mixture between a vocoder and a filter bank. And it's not that I don't like Spectravox. We reviewed it on here. We'll link to that under there. And it does a lot of cool things, particularly in the way it can kind of fire out CV from these different filter banks, hit like the kind of different frequencies of the filter bank. It does some really cool things. But personally, I think, well, for one thing, all of the rest of them, I think you can make a decent case for like owning it standalone and using it. Whereas this one, I'm not so convinced you can.
Okay.
And I think it's fun, but for me, it's probably the least essential.
Okay, well, so that's a very good point, the way you've put that, essential. Now, I fight for this one because I think it's got the most uses. I think it's a useful tool to have around the studio, around the setup. Is it the most essential? That's a contentious issue. But I think because you can use it as a vocoder, albeit it's not the best vocoder going, we get that. It's a really good, filter bank. That I think is its strong point. The running it as a voice on its own is also pretty cool, but the filter bank is the thing, I think. And I get what you're saying, it's not essential, but I think it ranks slightly better than the Subharmonicon because I think there's just got more use to it.
So I absolutely love the Subharmonicon. I think it's a really cool instrument. So for anyone who's not used it, it's based around kind of concepts of polyrhythms and these kind of subharmonic frequencies. So you've got these two oscillators which create pitches, and then these sub-oscillators, two sub-oscillators underneath each one, which you can tune to kind of both standard tuning and just intonation. So it's kind of, you can do interesting things like that. Then you've got these two sequencers and 4 rhythm generators, which mean you can get like different polyrhythmic sequences and things going on. So for me, I think that's really interesting, and it's all packaged together makes something really interesting. What I will concede,
and this is what I think about it as well,
is that actually all of that is really interesting, but the sound of Subharmonicon on its own,
it's pretty vanilla, isn't it? Like
it's a bit vanilla, you've got the oscillators which will go, you've got kind of square, saw, and kind of combined mode. So you've got a bit of kind of flexibility in the tonality, and obviously you've got like an attack and delay envelope generator for the amp, and you've got like a resonant filter. But compared to a lot of other synths, like just those things, it's got a sound, and there's not really that far you can push that sound away from its core thing. So I will concede.
I think that it's about the polyrhythm and the sequencing. That's the only good thing about this, really. And so you're going to concede that this one should be number 5. I'm getting a buy.
Am I? I'm letting you have that one. Okay. Buy.
Right, well, that means you get one in a minute, because I think we might.
So at number 5, we're saying Subharmonicon, which like I said, I really like, but I will concede it's not the broadest sound range. And then at number 4, that means Spectravox is coming in, which, as you said, it does a lot of interesting things. I would say that I think the worst thing it does is being a vocoder. Like in terms of if you want to just, do that classic vocodery sound, it's not very good for that. It's very kind of quite muffled, not great for the sort of clean digital vocodery sounds that you associate with people like Daft Punk and things like that.
Yeah, there are better ways to do that,
If you don't try and do that and you try and do weirder things, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you have that at number 4.
That's 4. Okay.
What's coming in at number 3?
Okay, this...
middle of the range, smack bang in the middle. I'm saying Labyrinth. So Labyrinth, the most recent one in the range. And there, again, there's a lot that we really like about Labyrinth. Kind of like Subharmonicon. It's it uses like generative things. So you've got these 2 little kind of bit-based sequences with these corrupt controls here. And what that do, they kind of they create triggers and pitches that can be randomized, and you can kind of use them you can chain them together, but you can also have different lengths of sequences, so you can get kind of cool polyrhythmic things. So it's quite similar to Subharmonicon in that way, but sound-wise, it does have a more, probably a more unique and more flexible sound engine. So you've got these 2 oscillators, one which is a kind of standard VCO, one which is called the mod VCO, so that can go from LFO frequencies up to audible pitches. You've got a filter, but you've also got a wave folder, so you can do some of that kind of weird, noisy, West Coast synthy kind of stuff. And the way that like the sequences interact and things like that can be really interesting. What I would say is, again, it's a little bit more, perhaps a little bit more niche and a bit more experimental than the 2 we've got left there.
And I think you're right. I'll give you that. Labyrinth at 4. 3.
Labyrinth at 3, because I think it's an excellent, really interesting, experimental synth and fun to dive into, but
Yeah.
it's probably not the thing that everyone is going to need in their studio.
Okay. Well, then it's going to be pipped, but only just, I think, by the Mother-32. This is your classic, if you want to kind of have this form factor and get the classic Moog sound and a usable synth, Mother-32 is the one.
Yeah, I mean, that is the... If we're saying that kind of Labyrinth is the weird one that isn't broad, this is the opposite end of that spectrum, isn't it? Because Mother-32 is...
It's true roots of Moog.
It's a pretty classically designed semi-modular monosynth.
Yeah.
Great for kind of basses, great for simple lead sounds like that. You've got the little button sequencer.
Yeah. It doubles up as a keyboard. It's not very usable as a keyboard, but you've got MIDI in, so you can just chuck your own.
Unlike a lot of these instruments, which kind of either don't have MIDI or you kind of have to patch it, kind of, or kind of patch sequences or things like that. You've got this handy MIDI input, which means you can literally just plug in a MIDI keyboard or plug it into your DAW or whatever and trigger it that way.
That one does have immediately MIDI, but that's your 3.5 mil.
Yeah, but that immediately makes it like a lot more universally useful and handy.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing that holds it from the top spot is probably that same thing. So of all of the range, it's the broadest and most useful. It's probably also the least
exciting,
interesting. Yeah, I mean, which is not that.
No, it sounds awesome.
Particularly, and also particularly with the patch bay and everything like that. It's you can do absolutely tons with it. It's got kind of interesting, cool modulation things going on.
Yeah.
It's also the one that's probably easiest to pair with any of the others. Like, kind of a nice sort of regular bass that you can then put something more experimental or weird on top of it. But
that's its strength.
But there are other good semi-modulars on the market. You've got off the top of my head, like Behringer Neutron being something like that. The Arturia mini brutes and stuff. So it's certainly not peerless.
No, it's not. No.
Whereas I would say
packed.
All of the other four of these is not really like anything else on the market.
Yeah.
There's no, other than a certain company maybe bringing out familiar looking instruments of late.
Yeah.
There's no competitors to the Subharmonicon and DFAM and things like that.
Yeah. Which leaves us
with the obvious number one.
Oh, the queen of all, DFAM.
Drummer from Another Mother.
Yeah.
It's a drum machine, but it's not a drum machine really in any way.
It's pure techno in a box, isn't it?
It is. So like DFAM, you've probably seen it, you probably tried one or heard one or whatever. It's a kind of percussion focused synthesizer. You've got these two oscillators which you can use to modulate one another to get like really nice like FME kind of punchy tom sounds and kicks and things like that. It's got really snappy envelope, which is really good for like kind of rhythmic things. It's great for little quick hats and kind of shuffly sounds like that. And then you can patch it and do a lot of weird things. You can do kind of tonal things. You can do bass lines. You can do kicks and snares. As you say, it's kind of like feels like techno in a box. And it's very characterful and it's very fun. What do we not like about it? Anything we don't like about it? I'll tell you what I don't like about it.
Go on.
One thing I don't like about it, which is kind of what defines its personality.
Right.
Sequencer is really annoying.
It is fiddly.
But I say that, it is the fact that it's fiddly and annoying. You can't really do precise things with it. It's kind of what gives it a lot of character.
Yeah. I mean, there are workarounds because you can buy those little cap tops, can't you? You can actually kind of get a bit,
you
much
can
finer control on top of those.
Always seem to be sold out constantly, but quite because obviously you want one.
For my money, right, if you were to sort of chuck these in a time capsule or something similar, that one stands the test of time.
That one is also the one that I would say, because obviously we go and visit a lot of artists in their studios to do our In the Studio series and things like that. And that is the one that turns up all the time.
Yeah.
Like people, like it just seems to be a really popular choice, and a lot of people are using it in a lot of really interesting ways.
So if you're making techno,
yeah,
you've got one of these. You need one.
Only other thing I don't like about it, lack of MIDI.
Okay.
If you could MIDI sync it,
yeah,
I think it would be my favourite thing in the studio.
That'd be a good upgrade, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's it.
Get on that.
Yeah. So that's our top 5.
Top 5.
Now let's talk about putting them together.
We're not going to be as obvious as this list goes. So we're going to break out a little bit and
let's do some magic.
Do some magic.
And let's see what you can come up with.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Okay, so we're not just ranking these.
No.
We have also challenged each other here. So these Moog boxes, they're all about connecting things together and plugging them in and things. So they're not things that you just use on their own. And we have challenged each other to say, what is the best pairing? So Moog sell a few of these anyway. They've got their sound studio things where you can buy like combinations of like the DFAM and Subharmonicon and things like that. So you can buy them together. You're going to want more than one really, or at least you're going to want to expand it with some more semi-modular things. But our question is, if you're going to buy two, which two do you think you should buy? And this is your answer.
This is my answer.
And you're going to try and convince me.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical.
I'm already skeptical.
Well, let's say you're skeptical because I've picked Spectravox and Mother-32. Now, slight reasoning behind Mother-32. I love it's the original. It's the OG.
Yeah.
I think this sequence is really good fun to use. It's classic Moog sounding synths. It's what you want. Spectravox, more of a divisive one.
We've already talked about this. Yeah.
And how best to use it. Now, vocoding, not its strong point, we must say. It has, you can use it as its own voice, which is fine. But I think as the filter bank is where it's its strongest.
So you've got it plugged in. So you've got a little drum machine and some effects and a bass. I mean, I didn't realise we were allowed so much external equipment. That's fine. We probably should have.
Yeah, we probably should have been clear on the boundaries.
Fine.
I've completely gone off piece.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, basically, I've just got like...
I'm going to just shuffle slightly.
A little bit. I've got a headless one, so it doesn't get him in the head. So I'm just running into like a cab sim out of Tonex here. Yeah. Accompaniment, just to keep things a bit exciting. And what we're doing is I've got some nice drive tones coming through, because you want sort of rich harmonic content going into Spectravox. So
you've got this, so talk me through, so this... You've got the amp sim going into
the program input,
and you're using this in filter bank mode.
I'm in filter bank mode. Yeah, and we're running the program into the carrier. A little bit of movement happening. I've kind of just been experimenting with what sounds good. We're taking the LFO out into the shift. We're taking the envelope out of the sequencer from Mother-32 into the LFO rate. Get a bit of movement. Makes things sound a bit fun. So on its own, it sounds like this. It's just. So I've just, like I say, been playing around some nice sort of phasey tones,
spacey.
Nice. This is like Doctor Who vibes.
And to be clear, none of that is coming from the effects. That is
no, it's a bit. You're getting a kind of
a bit of distortion coming from the effects,
you can hear that sort of with the harmonics of the drive there.
But the whole kind of phasey thing is coming all out of this filter bank.
That's coming out of all of this.
Nice.
And you can get loads of cool stuff. You can really like mess with this as just a filter on its own. Like I say, I'm using it to kind of get some phasing. We've got the 10 banks of filters here. You can, I did work out that, turning everything up, you can get some craziness, but you will need to dial back on a few things if you're plugging something like a distorted bass. But it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
So if we're running so if I start to run the Mother-32 with the polyend step, just got like a...
So this is just giving us our bass line there?
Yeah. And then, like I say, I've got the envelope coming out of the sequencer, running the LFO rate. They're just nice, bubbly. Nice. Real nice.
Nice. Discount square pusher vibes.
Yes,
Nice.
very discount. Yeah. Right, so I've fought my corner. I've staked my claim of my favourite pairing.
Your Spectravox and Mother-32 combo.
Yeah. Right, it's your turn.
I put something together using the Subharmonicon and the Labyrinth.
Nice.
So the two sort of generative, slightly more experimental ones in the range.
Yeah.
Why do I like these ones? Maybe it's because I'm lazy and I like things that will just randomly do stuff for me without having to program things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I have no ideas on my own. Who knows? So I was thinking about things that we could do, and initially I was kind of thinking about pairing Labyrinth with like the DFAM to do some cool like rhythmic things. Because it's got this nice, it's got this nice kind of randomizing sequencer on it and stuff. But then I thought, nah, let's go ambient. It's probably because my kids have been keeping me awake all week. I'm very tired.
And also, I did sort of slightly go out the remit by adding effects, so you've been able to do the same.
Yeah, well, as we kind of mentioned, I really like Subharmonicon, but I think its sound engine can sound a little bit vanilla and a bit like there's not that much that it does on its own.
Yeah.
But I think it really comes alive when you stick it through like a load of reverb and a load of delay.
Yeah.
So I've got some reverb and some delay. Yeah. Which I'm using one of these on each synth here.
Okay. And then how are they sort of?
So what I've done is I've kind of set something up. The sequencer here on Subharmonicon, it's this cool little polyrhythmic sequencer thing here where we get these different rhythm generators which feed into these two sequences. And what that means is that you can kind of get things cycling, and these kind of can be fed to the main oscillators and their sub-oscillators so that you get different pitches cycling kind of polyrhythmic ways. Yeah. What I've done, you'll notice, is I've turned the tempo right down on both of these because I really like it when it just moves really, really slow. So let's have a little listen to. Let me turn down the Labyrinth first. Okay. So you just hear what I've got with Subharmonicon here, and now I'm using the Labyrinth here to sequence everything. And let's turn the cutoff off a bit. So this is the dry signal coming through here, and now if I turn on my loads of reverb. Yeah. You see we get really soundscapey quite easily. And because you've got those kind of different oscillators creating different pitches, you sort of get these washy chord things. Now I've doubled this up with Labyrinth here, which I'm kind of just using the, what I'm doing is I'm just using this main oscillator here just to do a little kind of ping type sound. Let's turn this down a bit, you can hear. Yeah. And I'm gonna put this through the delay. So we kind of get some nice, weird rhythmic things going on.
Like it.
Now if I turn the cutoff down here a bit. But what else I've done? So one thing I really miss on Subharmonicon on its own is the fact that it doesn't have an LFO and a nice slow moving LFO for these kind of ambient things. And that's something that we can make use of Labyrinth for here. Yeah. So I've got the mod VCO here, which we're not using with the sound engine, but I have patched in via the utility on here so that I can do some stuff with the cutoff on the Subharmonicon. So if I turn up the utility, you can hear I'm using that to kind of introduce some modulations. To get even more weird rhythmic stuff going on. And now we could maybe make use of this little corrupt function to sort of randomise that little ping noise as well. And it's worth saying that the frequency here of that little ping, you can probably hear, is following this sequencer 2. So I've got sequencer 2 here, so that's controlling the oscillators here on Subharmonicon, and it's controlling that little kind of pingy, ambient noise. We can put in a bit of noise as well.
Nice. It's just evolving and doing its own thing.
I don't really have to do anything, and a nice little
and
washy, ambient, whale noisy soundscape. Yeah. With a shit ton of reverb on it. There we go.
What else can you ask for?
And that's my lazy man's ambient combination.
Nice. Right, so thanks for that. Two very different demos, we're sure you'll agree. Hit the comments section. Tell us which one's your favourite. Or if they're both rubbish, that's fine.
Tell us about your favourite combinations. I want to know what you have got these paired with, how you're patching them, any advice and ideas that are better than ours.
And do you agree with our ranking? Subharmonicon at 5, Spectravox at 4, Labyrinth at 3. I'm doing a little roundup here. Mother-32 at 2, and the D-Fam at 1. Do you agree with that? Let's have a fight in the comments about that one too.
We'll be back with some more reviews and probably ranking some more things for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, cool. See you soon.